But this is Dan Sucker from WintersComing.net here at Con of Thrones in Nashville, here with Chris of Valyrian Steel. Chris, what is it you do here, and what brings you to Con of Thrones?
So we are the global exclusive rights holder with HBO and with George for weapon and armor replicas from the show and the books. We work with George since 2006 and HBO since 2011, and so we make all the long claws, all the armor, the shields, the helmets. Now people get confused. They think, oh, so you're making the props for the show. No, that's not how it works. HBO sends us a prop. Like, I've held Longclaw, I've held Ice. It's fun for me. I've worn the real Houndstone and smelled Rory's sweat. And then we copy them. You know, we do molding or like 3D scans, whatever we need to do to make an accurate replica for collectors. Then we make thousands of replicas and we sell them. And many of your viewers probably are already customers of ours, which is great.
Probably right. I got to ask, okay, so you were around before Game of Thrones came around. Like, did you get into the business? Like, was it always we're going to make props from properties business, or do you like start making swords and then you got into the licensing game?
So in 2003, I started retailing Lord of the Rings products, and I was very successful doing that. 2006, I said I want to move it to manufacturing. I want to move up in the business. I want to go up to the next level. So I contacted George, and because I knew book swords sell, because I had sold swords from Wheel of Time and some of Ari Salvatore's books, and even though they didn't have a media property behind them, I knew that a book product would sell, and George's books had Longclaw and Ice. It wasn't Bob's sword, we have Rob's sword, but it wasn't like Jim's sword. It was Longclaw Ice. They were plot points like in Lord of the Rings with Sting and Androl and Glamdring. And when the sword has a name, it sells better. So I knew they would sell well, so I contacted George. We negotiated briefly. I wrote him a check, and I got the rights. And 3 months later, HBO optioned the books for the television show. And then I was able to parlay the relationship with George into the relationship with HBO. And now, as a business, we've done work with Warner Brothers. We've had talks with Disney, but Disney currently does not want to produce weapons under the Disney brand. So I understand that. That hasn't gone anywhere. We're going to do the Witcher video games, The Last Kingdom on Netflix, and there is one more I can't talk about yet, but it's going to be a show that's going to be on Amazon that's based on some books and stuff that people probably know about, and we're going to get that one as well, so that'll be exciting.
It may or may not be the Wheel of Time. I know that's coming. I know he can't say I don't know. That's my guess. Do you have a favorite weapon over here, or prop that you've made, or that's over here or not? So
we do still with George's book items and show items. My favorite overall was probably the Damascus Ice from the books because of just the pattern and the we had a white suede grip on it, and it like set it off, and there was some gold. See, in the show, HBO kind of made everything a little poorer, so everything was like more grand in the book. So Ice, our book Ice, is more grand in that there's gold on it, and it really looks like the sword of a king. Whereas the show Ice, which is my second favorite, you know, it's simple but it's big. It's beautiful for its function rather than its ornamentation. I like that one a lot too, but it's much more simpler than our book version. And you'll see that in a lot of our products. George's imagination, because George doesn't draw the book products. He works with an artist to tease out the design in his head, but his vision's always a little more fantastical than what the HBO prop designers ultimately came up with.
That makes sense. He's like that with the structures too, and the castles and everything. Do you like how much research into the books do you have to do this? Like, were you a fan coming in, or do you?
I was reading the books. Some guy on the internet actually recommended the books to me back in 2001. I started reading them, and I was like, I should thank the guy, right? Because he set this whole thing in motion. But yeah, I was a fan of the books, huge fan of the books, and even when then we had. It was 2006 and 2008 the first sword came out, and the economy did this thing, and we actually had to discount it, and I was like, oh man, I spent all this money to start this manufacturing business, what's going on? And the show was being worked on, but you don't know that the show was going to be this huge thing, and even if it was going to be successful for a fantasy show, you didn't know it was going to cross over to be mainstream successful to the point where worldwide season 8's getting viewership like the Super Bowl. I was confident that the show was going to be successful because the source material is so good, but I never expected it to just blow up. Funny story too, I was talking to George on the phone, right? And I can't take credit for Game of Thrones, I'm sorry, I would like to, I can't, but I did. We were talking about, could it ever be on screen? And I was saying, you know what, did you see Rome on HBO? They did a really good job. I think if it could go anywhere, it could go on HBO. And 3 months later, they did it, so It's my. You're welcome.
Heard it here first. This is where Game of Thrones came from.
Realistically, they were probably already in negotiations. George just couldn't tell me. But that's my funny story.
I think it's something you can tell your grandkids and be proud of. And finally, where can folk find you? And is there anything you're excited about that you're coming up?
Okay. ValyrianSteel.com, Valyrian Steel on Facebook, Valyrian Steel on Twitter, Valyrian Steel Official on Instagram because someone's squatting on Valyrian Steel regular. And if you're that person, come on. Seriously. Coming out soon, we got Heartsbane. We were actually hoping to have the prototype here today, just missed shipping. Prototype next week, we'll have it. We have to send it off to HBO for approval. If HBO approves it, we go to the photographer for the glamour shots. We get the glamour shots back, HBO approves those, then we can start doing pre-orders. So maybe late August-ish, we'll have Heartsbane pre-orders. We are just starting to work with George on a new book product. It will be Blackfire. So that is going to be designed by George. Those always take longer to produce because George is busy. He's got so many things he's working on. I hear there's a book. So the time he has to dedicate to working with us is going to be limited. But we are starting to work with Blackfire, and that will be the next book product. I don't know when that will. And then that's all we got in the fire right now. Oh, actually, Arya's the Catspaw blade. Yeah. We sold out the week before Arya used it to kill the Night King. Spoiler alert, too late. And we thought now that this has become such an important thing to the history of the show, we decided to remake it. So we are renaming it Arya's Blade. It will come, instead of a wall mount, a shelf mount. 2 little forks will hold the knife. It'll be a wood base. Printed on the wood base will be a map of Westeros, and then there'll be an acrylic dome over the whole thing. So that's another new product that's come out. And then that's kind of it, really, from Game of Thrones until the prequel starts producing product, I guess. But then we're going to do that book item with George, and we'll keep making the things that we make, as long as there's demand for it.
Well, thanks a lot for talking to us. This is pretty exciting stuff.